Hey, what's up, everybody? The V Club here, coming at you with another video here. And so, episode, and on all episodes, it's about anything and everything here at the Villain Club: lifestyle, entertainment, sports. It could be about anything. And so, I just look at things that are happening and I just want to share with you my thoughts. And I feel that we all share the same thoughts as well. But if you think I'm wrong, then tell me that I'm wrong. But you think I'm right? Well, then tell me that I'm right. But anyhow, let's get to it here. Wanted to talk about the sanctuary blue cities. All right, where you have, sorry to say, but dumbasses that run these cities. And you know what the common theme is, right? With these sanctuary cities, they're all woke. They're all immigrant, illegal immigrant. All right, let me put that in: illegal immigrant hoarding is what they're doing, right? They're allowing them all in. They pay for everything for them, and they're all about defunding police, or at least not fill them up with staff. They put all these laws and restrictions in place when it comes to being soft on crime. You look at what else is there? You can't talk to ICE officials, right? The Customs Enforcement that enforces, from illegal immigration, especially the ones that should be deported, especially the ones that commit crime. I mean, to me, it should be automatic. Like if you're a guest in someone's country, um, it's the same thing, right? If you had a guest in your house and someone and that guest was rude in your house, don't you kick them out, right? Well, the same thing should apply with, oh shit, if you're breaking laws, well then you're out of here or you're locked up, right? I mean, it should be automatic, but I don't get why it's not. Except that when it comes to Democrats and blue cities, right, the common theme is they're soft on everything, they allow everything, and then some of them are starting to kind of wake up a little bit from it, like Eric Adams, New York, and if they're not waking up from it, then the people that are supposedly supporters in these cities are waking up to it and be like, nah, we don't want you no more, right? Examples of LA DA, right? Soft on crime. What happens? They vote him out. San Francisco, they don't like the mayor's job and her performance. Oh, they vote her out. Oakland, they didn't like her. That she's not for re-election or elections, but they recalled the Oakland mayor. They recalled the Oakland or Alameda County DA. Right. So there are ways to work around, and then there are places where, for example, Chicago. All right, where he's one of the biggest clowns of all, Brandon Johnson. They have a difficult system to remove elected officials, and it's such a process. They should just streamline the process, but they don't have that sort of streamlined process to do it. But he's a clown, though, all right? So this guy here, Brandon Johnson, he's a clown. He's the face of blue cities, sanctuary city clowns, Democrat clowns. All right, and look at that face. He's a clown. Um, and I think he's just like Gavin Newsom, another clown, right? That they think people are stupid. All right, and that's what bothers me is that they think people are stupid. And so, here's an example. All right, California. So Gavin Newsom forces the $20 minimum wage in California, right? He forced it for fast food minimum wage $20, right? And it didn't go over well. The reaction was for the ones that are working those jobs, they're happy, but at the same time, I think a lot of hours were cut. They have less hiring. Um, what else is there? Some places like Pizza Hut, they cut all their delivery drivers. They got rid of them all. They said, we're not gonna stand for this. So that was what happened, right? You forced it, high minimum wage. that, for example, there was supposed to be a $30 an hour minimum wage for healthcare workers that I think they put off on the back burner right now, and he blames it on the California budget. They can't support it right now. It's like, duh. But that was proposed, right? And so, but finishing up with California, so they try to put it on the ballot. All right, so $20 an hour didn't go over well because it cost fast food prices to go up, less hiring. It didn't do much except cause more trouble, right? Makes everything go higher, especially for fast food. So they try to put on the ballot to increase minimum wage to $18 an hour, right, from 16. And so again, California, Gavin Newsom, they think that people are stupid, right? And guess what happens? They vote down not approving for $18 an hour minimum wage because it's understandable that cost of living is high, but you can't force high wages because the high wages is what's going to cause prices to go up, right? They pass the burden on to you. So it doesn't make things better, it makes things worse. And it's the conditions around that makes everything so expensive. So you got to lift restrictions, you got to lift taxes, maybe pull some restraint a little bit when it comes to all these other things surrounding why cost of everything is so high, and maybe cost of everything will go down. Oh my gosh, right? If you don't pay for illegals, everything, including transgender surgeries, right, on illegals, and if they want to change sex, and you give them free health care, free food, free money, free transportation, free housing, right, everything. If you don't do that, man, imagine how much of a supply would actually be on the market for housing. If you drill for oil and let refineries do their job, man, we would have supply. And not only that, we would have enough supply to where we don't need to depend on any other country. And maybe the cost of oil will go down. Oh my gosh, right? Or in gas go down, sorry. So these blue Democrat idiots think they take people for stupid, all right? So let me take you now to Brandon Johnson, all right, because he's a face of stupidity. So he ran on campaigning for, he would never raise property taxes and things like that, right? So he got elected. And then now that, Chicago's one of the main sanctuary cities in the U.S., right? New York, Chicago, Denver, and then San Diego are like the main sanctuary cities in the U.S. To a lesser extent, Arizona, but they've kind of closed off that area. But California's wide open, San Diego. So next thing you know, they spin, right? That's the thing about Democrats. They love to spin, right? Spin like there's no tomorrow, right? And then, then there's a deficit, huge deficits, by the way. New York has a deficit. LA has a deficit. San Diego has a deficit. Chicago has a deficit. San Francisco has a deficit. California has a deficit. All right? You have all that. And then what happens? Oh, we got to we got to cut back this. No, but we're not trying to cut back city services and funding. So what we need to do is we got to raise taxes and we got to do this, right? So what Gavin Newsom does is he tries to run it through as bonds to help pay for things, because if you say tax, people will say no automatically because people are not stupid, right? Here's another stupidity of Brandon Johnson, where he said we'll never raise property tax, and then he proposed $300 million property tax raise, right? $300 million plus, all right? Some people say 350, but it doesn't matter. $300 million. And so with $300 million, I mean, let alone, shit. You say you would never, raise property tax, and then you're proposing it, and you try to bullshit some excuse, and then you put it up to a vote, right, among the, aldermen is what they call it, the elected officials around Chicago and Illinois, and they said no, right, 50-0, no. They said not just a no, that's just a clear, flat out fuck no, right? All right, you bring that to me? Fuck no. All right, that's what they did. So now this idiot says, all right, well, since you said no to 300 million, I'm going to come back with a smaller proposal. All right, so here's what this idiot comes through and says now. All right, let's just hear what he has to say because he's an idiot. All right, you have clowns running the shows here.
Now we'll get the latest on what the Chicago budget proposal means for taxpayers right now. The mayor has cut that property tax hike in half, but he's far from getting the 26 votes he needs in the council.
There are other budget changes as well. Political reporter Marianne Ahern is here now.
Let's hear what Chicago's
today.
trying to do now, because they, paid up the ass for being a sanctuary city to all illegals, yet they don't want to, help out with their own citizens, right? I mean, to me, that's kind of like, why would you want to do that to your own people, right? But that's always been the question. At the same time, since Trump wants to come in and just like clean sweep with mass deportation, Brandon Johnson here decides, nah, you're not going to do this when I'm here. You're going to have a lot of resistance. So that was another thing he threw in on top of that.
That's the operative word today. Rather than raising $300 million through property tax hikes, the mayor says the plan is now to raise $150 million. Aldermen, including his allies, are reluctant at this.
So he says, well, if I can't do $300 million, I'm going to just try to ask half of that. All right. But they're looking at $1 billion deficit in Chicago.
To say they're on board.
I'm not sure if I'll get a placard for being collaborator in chief.
Mayor Brandon Johnson defends his
Fucking
style,
idiot.
even if aldermen disagree.
I could not say it felt like collaboration. I know I can say that because half the things we learn are from the press.
Some of the steps and measures that are being taken, some individuals are having tantrums right now. It's time to grow up. People in Chicago don't have time for that.
How many ambulances, engines, and trucks we have.
As the city council holds hearings on next year's budget, today it was the Chicago Fire Department that presented its needs. After last week's 50-0 vote telling Mayor Johnson no way on a $300 million property tax hike, he insists that cutting labor is still off the table.
Cuts to services is a non-starter.
The new proposals include a $150 million property tax hike, $128 million raised through personal property lease tax on cloud computing, $10 million through hiking fees for streaming services. The mayor needs 26 votes. Today, even he walked back one of his top aides, claiming they already had the votes needed.
I know I read that somehow 26 members of this body are somehow in favor of that, but it is notable the fact that I can't name one of them.
So is it true that I have 26 votes on this proposal? Is it true? We are still in the process of negotiating.
Any property tax hike is tough, even for some of his allies to raise their hand.
They better say
there needs
no.
to be more discussions. I think what is not an option is operate
I would not put my name on that if I was an alderman. I'd be like, fuck no.
without a budget or delaying these or obstructing ideas. I do think that we have a responsibility to get to a budget agreement.
The mayor also today weighed in on President-elect Trump's plans to use the military for mass deportations, and more on that part of the story when I join you again at 6 o'clock.
All right. Thanks so much, Marianne.
Yeah, so the thing about the mass deportation is, Trump plans to use the military as almost like a state of emergency. And then not only that, so Brandon Johnson is, really standing tall in the sense that he's going to resist doing that. The Boston mayor outright said we're going to resist these efforts Denver said we're going to resist the efforts. Newsom of California says we're going to resist these efforts. So to me, that's borderline treason, all right? Because now you're going against federal authority to, really break the law and harboring illegals, which is a drain on resources in the first place, right? If you didn't have the illegals, these sanctuary blue cities wouldn't face this problem of the deficits, right? But these idiots don't have a clue, right? They're all a bunch of clowns and idiots. And, maybe this, they're going to, of course, harp on, oh, man, this is racist and this is that and this and, illegal immigration, blah, blah. They're going to cry about it. But it's the right thing to do. And people voted for that. People want that. Because if they didn't want that, they wouldn't have voted for Trump. So that's the thing about it. All right. And my whole thing is that these blue cities think people are stupid, right? The Denver mayor said that he was going to use people as, the protesters. The protesters are going to resist. He says he's going to have Denver police, law enforcement resist. And I can't see, even though Denver's woke, I just can't see their own law enforcement really go against the federal government. I just can't see that. I think they will step aside and let the federal authorities do their job. But what these sanctuary city mayors, governors ought to be doing is should be arrested and tried for, to me, it's just treason, because they're harboring people that already broke the law. They're going to argue, oh, they didn't break the law. They broke the law by coming across the border illegally. That's why they're called illegal immigrants, right? Even though Biden invited that, people don't want these people coming in. All right, we got enough problems as it is, and the way things are put in place, Tom Homan, right, the new border czar coming up, is not playing games. He's not going to do a Kamala and say, okay, your border czar, and I'm going to go investigate root causes. I never was supposed to be running the border. Well, Tom Homan has already made his plans loud and clear about what is happening. All right, so let me see here. That's Tom Homan. Let's see here. Sanctuary cities plan to resist Trump's mass deportation. All right, so let's take a look at this. Los Angeles is the latest to become a sanctuary city. I thought they've always been a sanctuary city. Look at this. New York has spent more than $5 billion on housing and caring for migrants, right? These are illegal migrants. Let's see here what she has to say.
Back and defy President-elect Trump's plans for mass deportations. It's one of his biggest campaign promises. Well, Denver's Democratic Mayor Mike Johnston predicting a Tiananmen Square type situation with residents rising up.
What kind of shit is that? I think Denver's woke, but I don't think all residents are on board with so-called rising up to resist.
In China back in 1980.
I just don't see that.
So what does this mean for the president-elect's plans at the local level? News Nation's Xavier Walton.
There is a lot of people that are against the illegals here, even in Denver, right? If you ask a lot of people in Denver...
Xavier, how can these sanctuary cities refuse to cooperate with this new incoming...
You can't. You can't refuse to cooperate.
Administration.
You can't.
Hey, Marky, good morning. Essentially, What the city leaders are saying is that the White House and President-elect Donald Trump, when he gets to the White House, will not have authority to do so with some of their local National Guards. We're going to get to that in just a second. But we're going to get back to what you just talked about. Really bold words coming from the mayor of Denver. And if he holds true, keeps his words when President-elect Donald Trump takes office, we could be heading for a collision course. So we're talking about Mayor Mike Johnston, a Democrat, says city police
should be
will
arrested.
be assisting in mass deportation efforts, and residents in Denver support his decision. Johnston, like you just mentioned, even comparing that potential for public resistance to the upcoming federal immigration operation to the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests in China. We all know how that ended. It certainly got our attention, a bold comparison. Meantime, other sanctuary cities like Los Angeles, Chicago are bracing for mass deportation efforts as well under the new administration. In LA, Mayor Karen Bass saying, you know what, this moment demands urgency after city council there reaffirmed its sanctuary city status. The governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, a Democrat, saying earlier this week he is deeply concerned and questioned whether the president of the United States even has the authority.
How can you question that? This is
of
federal
the
land
act that authorizes the use of the National Guard, Title 10, Title 32, and he doesn't have, under either one of those, the ability to call the National Guard out, again, in the United States of America.
Okay, so there's a question over who has the authority. President-elect Trump has vowed to start deportation efforts on day one. We've heard this repeatedly. His plan aims to target an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, says federal agents are going to carry out their duties regardless of local resistance. Here's why.
It just makes sense. There's no downside in a secure border. And I have arguments a lot up on Capitol Hill. Give me one downside in a secure border. What's the downside in less illegal immigration? What's the downside in less fentanyl that killed 250,000 people? What's the downside in less sex trafficking of women and children, which is up now 600%? What's the downside on less people on terrorist watch lists coming across the border? A secure border saves lives.
Yeah, what's the downside of national security?
So, Mark, he could be heading for a collision course. Remember, Trump's inauguration day will be, it's a little less than 2 months away from today. So we're going to have to watch and wait and see how it all plays out from now to then, Marky.
Yeah,
I can't
January
wait.
20th. We'll be watching closely. Xavier Walton, thank you so much.
I can't wait. See, Trump's border crackdown, law enforcement preps for changes, right? Policing the border, so you can see some of the sanctuary cities type stuff there on the map. Do you support or oppose the idea of sanctuary cities in the U.S.? Let's see here. I am opposed to it. All right, so what happens here?
Stunning allegations of a homegrown terrorist out of the heartland. The FBI says a Texas man was a graphic designer.
I mean, you look at it, right? Like, look what happened. Laken Riley, they decided on the verdict of Laken Riley, right? Let me go pull that up. They sentenced the dude to life in prison because he had a woke attorney. Could have been probably sentenced to death, but because his attorney was woke, right? And because he was woke, he only asked for life. And it was overwhelmingly that it was life in prison, right? No matter, a minimum. It was just a minimum. And it's funny because they poke fun about the headline of what MSNBC was saying. The initial headline they said was Laken Riley's killer never had a chance, right? Then they changed it to the guilt of Laken Riley's killer was never in doubt because they had a lot of backlash, all right, for the headline they used. Let me put in MSNBC, all right, headline, because that was a big deal too. See, where MSNBC edits the headline, you know, because they had a lot of backlash. It's like, yeah, Laken Riley's killer never stood a chance. As if, what chance would he have for pulling a crime he did? The evidence was there. surveillance was there, evidence was there. His DNA is under her fingernails of the scratches that he had. I mean, everything was evident that he was the one. All right. And so, at minimum, it was a life sentence. He should have been put to death. And either that or get deported to Venezuelan prison. How about that? Something. So, yeah, MSNBC is trash anyways. But yeah, so when you have all that, and sanctuary cities are allowing it, harboring these people. I mean, Trump said that Venezuela and all these places, they're not letting their best out. They're letting out their prisons. They're not sending their best, right? So why would sanctuary cities want to be on board, right? They take people as stupid, and we can't do nothing about it. We're kind of helpless because our tax money goes into the government, the state government or city government, and we can't do nothing to pull that back because I'm telling you, we are not for this stuff, but we're kind of stuck. And the only way you could really get away from it is to just move and leave out of these sanctuary cities. And so if they lose that person, and then that's one tax base they lose, and more people take suit, that would be less funding for the cities. That's what's happening in California. California is happening because a lot of people moved, a lot of businesses moved, and when it comes to money that's supposed to come in, it wasn't what they expected, and that's why we're in a deficit. So that's the problem we got right now. It's just funny how all this thing is happening and percolating. And so it's a losing situation with sanctuary cities and idiots like Brandon Johnson and what's his name, Newsom. All right. So, it's great that voting works. All right. And so we need to see more of that. And so we will. So I just wanted to show that to you guys. Let me know what you think. Comment down below. Don't you agree that when this operation starts, it's gonna really help everything in the United States, and people like him and others that are supporting these illegals and going to be resistant to federal authorities ought to be all locked up. They should all be locked up. So with that, this guy's an idiot, man. Oh, you guys shot down 300. Well, I'll just ask for 150. Watch. I'll bet you when that gets shot down, he's going to say something like 100 or 50 or something. And he's just going to say, he just wants to have something, right? Because he doesn't want to look like a total loser that he is. But that's going to get shot down too, that 150. And who would be the alderman that puts their name on that vote? All right, because they ought to be kicked out too, especially if you know that Chicago is struggling. Places like Chicago, places like San Francisco. I mean, you could go up the West Coast, right? All along the West Coast, L.A., states, California, Chicago, New York. Think about it. Like, if you know that it's a struggle, and especially if you're harboring these illegals, and you're going to ask for more money from us, like, what kind of shit is that? So, hopefully people wake up and realize, you know what? Yeah, we're not going to let this happen. And he gets shot down, just like all these blue cities should get shot down in terms of what they're always proposing in terms of what it is that they want to do for illegals and not for us. All right, so comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next one.